Governor Inslee, thank you for joining us, the Columbian's Editorial Board. And we are here to talk about your budget proposal, which was released last week. So why don't you go ahead and start on that? What do you think are the highlights? What are the most important aspects of it to get passed?
Well, they're all vital, of course. We love all our children equally, so everything's a priority here. If I can, let me just more on a foundational basis mention the values that we built this budget around, if I can.
Sure.
The first is we don't want to kick anyone to the curb. We don't want to cut services to Washingtonians in the middle of a pandemic. This is a time of the largest need of Washingtonians for services from nutrition to healthcare to mental health to education. This is a moment of utmost need. So the first priority is not to reduce or slash or cut the services for Washingtonians they're depending on at their most challenging time for families and businesses. So we're not doing those cuts. Second, we are embedding throughout the budget the principle that this is not just a healthcare crisis, it is an economic crisis. So it's built on the precept that we want to help our economy weather the storm and rebuild, and that's throughout the system. Third, we want to use our tools at this challenging moment the way they're supposed to be met, including the capital budget, which is one of the best ways to promote relatively short-term economic activity. So we have a very robust capital budget that will accelerate into this year the things that we know we would otherwise wait years to do, while increasing construction activity, maybe 35,000 jobs. So we have an ambitious capital budget. We think that is the kind of year where you use the capital budget in a way that is most economically productive. And the fourth, we wanted to bring equity to our system, to have a fair tax system, to have a fair system to reduce racial inequality. And throughout this budget, you'll see evidence of equity, starting with the creation of an equity office and finishing with a tax proposal that will increase or decrease the rank, odious disparity and unfairness that working people have to pay inordinate share of our taxes in our society. So we've proposed a capital gains tax to try to bring some degree of step forward to bring more fairness to our system, and funding of our working families tax credit on the other end, so that working people who now pay 5 to 6 times more of their earnings to taxes than the top 1%. So those are the 4 kind of pillars upon which we built our budget, and we look forward to your questions.
Oh, thank you. Let's start with the capital gains proposal. That has come up many times in the past. It's not gained any traction. What makes you think it'll be different this time?
Well, it's because everything has its own time, and everything we've ever done in Washington usually takes 5 or 6 years to get done. That's how we got the transportation package through. For 3 years, people said no, and we finally got it through. Greenest, largest transportation. That's how we passed the best electrical grid bill and clean energy in the United States. That took years. This is another thing that has taken years, and its time has come. And its time has come due to a combination of things. Number one, the needs of our families and our businesses is more acute than it has ever been in my lifetime, given the economic stresses of this pandemic. The lines at our food banks have grown to astronomical sizes. The needs to help them across these troubled waters is unparalleled in my lifetime, I think. So we've never had greater needs to help our citizens and our families. It's unmatched, and so that calls for help. And if you're going to help people, you have to have a way to pay for it. We're not like the federal government, where we can just put it on the credit card. That's how the Congress is going to act today. I hope that they will, and that's going to help a bit. Not as much as we'd like, but it's good news. They just put it on the credit card. We don't have a credit card in a sense. And so we have to, if we're going to help our people, we have to pay. And so instead of having working people pay for it, we're asking for the top 1%. I want to focus on what a limited request this is. This will affect less than 2% of Washington families. The average income of the people it will affect is $750,000. And I've checked, nobody here on this call will be in part of that group, at least at the Columbian. So, or in public service, I may add. So it's a very limited request to help a lot of people. And it's matched with, over time, the Working Families Tax Credit to actually fund something that's fair that did pass years ago, which has never been funded. So we think it is a reasonable thing. Now, the other thing is, just look, every year, something that is embarrassing, every year becomes more unacceptable. And it is too embarrassing for Washington to have the most unfair tax system in the United States, in the best, smartest, and best looking state in the United States, and that's the Evergreen State. We got to fix this. So the time has come.
So, can
I add something before I forget?
Sure.
We have proposed a way to make our system more fair. There are other ways to do that, to have a more progressive system in the state. I know some legislators are proposing other ideas in that direction. I am open to those ideas. It doesn't foreclose consideration of other progressive proposals.
Now, and staying on the capital gains tax, you said that part of it is the urgency, the need to increase revenue during the pandemic. But critics of the capital gains tax say that it amounts to an income tax, which is unconstitutional in Washington. Realistically, won't it be held up in court for years, even if the legislature passes it?
No, those critics share something. They're wrong. This is a constitutional and fair system to embrace. We've had multiple analysis of that. It is not an income tax on wages. It won't touch anyone's wages. It is a capital gains tax. And everybody knows it's a capital gains tax. It starts with C and G, not I. It's pretty close. So they can try all that sophistry and propaganda they can want, but it's a capital gains tax. It's a tax on gains on capital. It's exempt homes and farms and the like, and that's why it only affects less than 2% of the families in the state of Washington. Look, there's no reason to believe it's going to be tied up by anyone. If people do want to challenge it, they'll have access to the Supreme Court quite quickly, and I'm confident the Supreme Court will give us a ruling, and it's going to be in favor of this fair proposal. So I don't have any qualms about that. Now, having said that, if the critics of the capital gains tax want to propose some other progressive tax as an alternative, we'd love to hear their proposals. Of course, they won't help because they don't want to pull on the rope. They just have no interest in actually helping people throughout this pandemic. We do.
I want to turn to David for a moment. David, what is the current revenue projection?
In dollars?
Yes.
For next biennium, it is about 54.7 billion.
So, and I mean, what is the revenue projection? How much is the shortfall expected to be?
I think that's a difficult thing to answer with all of these things have been moving and with the federal money, et cetera. The way we've been explaining it is for this biennium, for 1921, we had this significant downturn in the forecast in June, and we're talking about multi-billion-dollar problems. With the actions that we took over the summer, hiring freezes, stop and pay raises and things, plus the big part of it was the revenue decline was much smaller than we would have ever expected, right? I mean, we have an independent forecaster that did the forecast, and they were more pessimistic than what turned out to be true. Mm-hmm. So combine all of those for 1921, we're almost perfectly in balance. Now, going forward, That's not necessarily the case. And depending on, what level of budget, both the spending and the savings that we've got from our collective bargaining, you can sort that all out. So I don't have a number that what our projected deficit was. I can explain to you what this revenue does and how much money it leaves, when we're done.
Okay, well, and thank you. So Governor, so David said for next year, we're almost in balance. There still is a projected deficit for the following biennium. Shouldn't the first step be to find places to cut instead of immediately reaching to raise revenue?
Well, we've already cut. I took executive action this spring, which required furlough days for state employees, canceled the 3% pay raise for non-represented employees. We've already cut $500 million. I've cut $500 million out of the budget. And it comes back to my first precept, but no, we are not going to reduce people's food that is paid through our nutritional programs. We're not going to cut aid to the homeless in the middle of a pandemic. We're not going to cut mental health. We're not going to cut care to foster children. We're not going to do that. We're not going to throw people out of their homes or increase hunger. We got enough of that already. So the answer is no. In fact, it reminds me of that commercial you've seen. Have you seen that commercial where they have like the guy from Austin Powers saying no?
Craig?
No, listen, if people have, efficiencies of adopting artificial intelligence systems that can save money, we're always open to those. But when you really look at the heart of it, we're just not going to throw people out of their homes right now.
Okay. Craig?
Sure. So what looks like Congress is finally going to pass another stimulus bill today. What effects what's in that for Washington State?
I wish I knew. We're still evaluating that. It does look like there's substantial assistance for school funding, which is great. Some additional help for our vaccine programs, which is great. Some help for, I believe, for rental assistance, and some for small businesses, which is great. The missing piece is assistance for our general fund for the state and local governments. That's very disappointing, but we are hopeful that Congress will take another whack at that in January and February. We literally, I was on the call this morning with our DC folks trying to evaluate this. We really can't give you the real assessment of that. Hopefully we'll know some more tomorrow when we actually have a chance to look at the bill. But I'm grateful for help. We got to celebrate. I think this is the moment to celebrate any success we can have, right? So I heard a pundit this morning griping about how long it took Congress. I'd rather focus on the good news that we do have help coming our way. So this is the season of being grateful. That's how I look at it. And it should help. By the way, so this does lead to the concept that, this is our budget. We will know more in the next few days. I will be talking to legislators to determine how to potentially adjust things that might need very early action by the legislature. We know we have a vaccine program that has to be up and running. There's some things we may want to be able to help some schools with so we can have more children getting back to on-site education. We may be asking legislature for very early action in the opening days of the session. And I will be talking to legislators about that in the next few days so that we make sure that we get action as soon as we possibly can. It does look, I'll get clarity on this, but as you know, we were prepared to replace the pandemic unemployment assistance program. I think that will not be necessary now. I've got to confirm that. But we had a plan. We had that all set up. We were ready to push the go button Wednesday. It looks like we won't need to do that. It looks like Congress has filled that hole in the bucket. but we'll have more to say in the next day or two.
When you go to speak with legislators, what kind of reception do you expect? Are they going to be open to this budget proposal?
Well, we expect vocal accolades and a rain of appreciation. That's what we expect. We don't always. I'm looking for. I really don't see obvious points of huge contention with the majorities in the House or the Senate. I think, at least from talking with legislative leadership, we're largely aligned on the four values that I articulated. I think that there's alignment between the governor's office and the majorities in the House and Senate on those general principles. I'm sure that there will be other ideas. I've indicated that there's some different ideas about, what's the best progressive revenue source that is, and as I've indicated, we're open ideas about that. There's ideas about climate change and how to generate revenues to fight climate change. The one I have proposed, I think, is the most helpful because it has a cap on pollution, which is, our goal is to limit pollution. And the proposal I've advocated, we know has been working. It's been working in California. We've made ours better than California because we have more environmental justice in our proposal. We've learned from the California experience. And our cap and investment system is superior because it has more environmental justice. It protects communities of color and poverty so they don't end up swallowing pollution. And we've been very strong. This is the strongest environmental justice proposal anywhere in America. So we're happy about that. But other, legislators have some other ideas, so we'll be talking about that. But I feel that we're going to have a productive session. I really can't wait to get started.
Now, what about the climate plan? How will that impact business? Some businesses have pushed back against it.
Well, it's going to help businesses ultimately in our state because we know the future is in clean energy. We know that the largest rate of job creation is in clean energy. Clean energy jobs have grown twice or three times faster than the rest of the economy. So we know we have tremendous job creation associated with clean energy. Longshoreman jobs at the Port of Vancouver. Last time I flew in, I looked down and saw all those wind turbine blades that are now going to the Rattlesnake Hill wind turbine farm that we just opened virtually. I just cut the yellow ribbon for that wind turbine farm virtually. I don't know if the blades came to the Port of Vancouver or not, but I know the jobs in Lind of the solar project, the jobs in Cross-Laminated factory, the jobs in Bellingham, one of the largest manufacturers of solar cells in the Western Hemisphere is in Bellingham. So we're growing jobs all over the state. We know these technologies are coming up like gangbusters, and we know this is perfect for Washington because that's what we do. We grow new advanced manufacturing jobs all over the state. And that's what we're doing big time. So this is going to be a positive thing for our economy. And we know that it's good too because having asthma is not good for the economy, and carbon pollution causes our forests to burn down. It's not good for the economy when people can't because of forest fires that are. So this is clearly a positive economic plan. And it's built on technology and manufacturing prowess, and it's built on the belief that Washington wants jobs and health, and the only way we're going to do that is. So I'm very optimistic. Some, not all, of the fossil fuel companies still haven't got the message that we're going to make this transition, but more of them are supporting these proposals. We have a number of fossil fuel companies that realize we have to make this transition. We have no choice. So they're actually, having some support for these carbon systems. I can't tell you exactly about but we're seeing increasing commitment to reduce the need from some of the fossil fuel industries.
Now, is there anything in the budget regarding the B&O tax? I know questions have been brought up about that.
David, I don't think we have.
No, I don't know.
Specifically about a B&O tax.
Is there something specific this year that you've heard about, or just in general?
No, just in general.
Yeah, we're not messing with the B&O tax. While I'm talking though, Greg, could I answer kind of your question about cuts?
Yes.
One of the things that we shouldn't underestimate is the savings that we got from the hiring freeze and putting an end to the salary increases and instilling furloughs. That's, over the 4-year period, that's almost $500 million of savings that came not from cutting services to people, but unless, if it's you and if it's your paycheck, that's a cut to you. We tried not to do cuts, people's health care or child care or things like that.
And you say that's over the 4 years. So is the plan to extend those freezes through 2023?
Right. So within the collective bargaining, we bargained with the state employees that we would have furloughs once a month through the whole biennium. And then the hiring freeze will continue. The legislature can choose to do that or not do that. What we did on our own authority, starting in June, was put into place these freezes, to save money. To be honest, because we thought it would probably be worse when we got here. In June, it looked really bad. We asked agencies for these 15% cut drills. We did all these things. As revenues continued not to be as bad as we thought, the things that we did that saved money obviously stayed in place. We bargained with the state employees over the summer and fall, and that saved a lot of money. But we were able to stop at the actual cutting of services for citizens.
Okay, thank you. Who else has a question?
I have a question. Governor Inslee, in the second wave of the COVID response to the numbers going up, you banned indoor dining and closed gyms. And it's been about a month now. And so the numbers have continued to rise. And I just wondered if you could speak to that, to the restaurant owners and the gym owners.
Well, the first thing I would say is I have a very acute pain thinking about what those companies and their employees are going through right now. I have to tell you, it's just really painful when you think about hard work people who are now laid off and business owners who may have invested their life's dreams in a small restaurant, and now it's really, really hard on them. It's producing anxiety and worry and loss of some business capability. It's really, really painful. That's the first thing I would say. And neither I or anybody else should diminish how tough it is on these families right now that are involved, both the people who work there and the people who own these small businesses. So it's broad and it's deep. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is it's absolutely necessary given the scope of this pandemic. And it's also been, in a sense, helpful. It has helped save lives. Saving lives sometimes takes making difficult decisions, and that's what we've done. And we have saved lives making these kind of decisions. We've conservatively saved thousands of lives. If you compare our state that has made some of these tough decisions to other states, we have saved thousands of lives. If you compare us to other similar sized states, I was looking at, I think it was Arizona the other day, they've had 4,000 more deaths than we have. And we've made some different kind of decisions, and they've been difficult, but they have saved thousands of people's lives. And that is continuing the case in the most recent decision. We think that there's good evidence that we have slowed the rate of increase quite substantially. So if you look at the curves, they are almost going almost straight up in the, in November. In the last 2.5 to 3 weeks, that curve has been changed rather dramatically. We think we're seeing some increase, but it is dramatically reduced. So we think that we've seen that this has worked to reduce the infection rate and save lives. So these are hard decisions, but life is a precious thing. And the third thing I would say is we're trying to help these employees and business owners. Employees, by, as I said, I was ready to extend the pandemic unemployment insurance if the Congress has not stepped up. We think they have, both for regular and pension. So look, extended protection to the workers in these. And I start with the workers because people forget it's only the owners. You might have one owner and 35 employees. So we're protecting the employees. And we also want to help some of these businesses by giving business relief. We've already done about $135 million, the last 50 of which is specifically targeted to restaurants and gyms and the like. And we are likely to propose an additional $100 million in January, depending on what's in the congressional proposal. We haven't had a chance to see that yet. So we will evaluate what Congress has done to be able to help these hard-hit restaurants and gyms to figure out what the state response should be. And we'll have more to say about that in the upcoming days. So we want to help businesses. It doesn't mean that this will be pain-free, but we've done a lot, and we're going to do more either through the federal action or some combination of state and federal activity. So there's more help on the way, and we hope as many people as possible can survive till we get to the safe harbor.
Yeah. If the congressional package is inadequate, do you anticipate more assistance for Washington businesses from the state?
Yes, if it's inadequate, yes. But we, as I've said, we literally have not been able to see the package yet to figure out what will be made available. But I will not be shy of asking the legislators for additional help for small businesses, particularly the ones that have been affected by these restrictions when they arrive on January 12th.
Okay. Great. Any other questions? Anybody else?
I'd like to squeeze in one last question if I could. So, so the Trump administration, through their actions and inactions, set up a big bidding war for PPE equipment and testing supplies back when the pandemic first started. How's it going with the vaccine distribution? Are you seeing anything where states are going to be pitted against each other to try to get doses for their population?
No, not at the moment. Largely to our knowledge, now this could change, but at the moment, the federal government has done this on a pro rata per capita basis based on population, and that's the right way to do it. And so far, the allocations have been according to that. Now, we're aware of the disturbing glitch that occurred where the federal government told us we were going to have X number of doses and then cut it by 40%. That was very disturbing and disappointing. General Perna made clear that was a result of the federal government mixing up what would be available through the manufacturing process and the amount they could actually clear through the QC work needed to be done. That was unfortunate. We hope it'll be a one-time event. The good news is that there does not appear any problem in the production systems, the supply chain, but that's good news. And we hope to have more stable, predictable number of dosages coming into our state. So we knew there would be glitches. It happened, but it looked remediated. We appreciated General Perna's candor and stepping up the explaining what happened there.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? No. Governor or David, any final thoughts on the budget? Anything we haven't asked that we should?
Well, one thing, if I can talk about transportation, because we know how important the bridge project is, we have proposed a revenue source, which is the cap and invest system that could be available for transportation major projects, which could include the bridge. We did not specify the allocation to that revenue source, but it is available for transportation projects. We've also proposed it's available for the working families tax credit, which has been put in statute but never funded. So the reason we did not propose specific projects is we didn't think project list had been mature enough for us to be able to list projects. But that revenue source is available for projects, including the bridge, which, as you know, is a project of statewide significance. So as we've made, I think, good progress in our discussions with Oregon, and we look forward to figuring out how to get the bridge built. And this is a revenue source that some of the Washington community can rally behind that. And if we could possibly put together a project list that would include the bridge this session, that would be of great interest to us.
Now, if the cap and invest does not pass, is there any other conceivable revenue source for the bridge?
Well, there are other revenue sources. There's a price on carbon that could possibly be a revenue source that would not involve a cap. We don't think that is as good as a cap and invest because it wouldn't have an absolute cap on carbon. That's one of our goals, right? Which is to limit pollution. And the cap and invest limits pollution with a binding commitment. There's another effort to simply put a price on carbon pollution and use that revenue for a variety of sources. That has some interest in the legislature. So yes, there are alternate ways to do this, but one way or another, you have to have a revenue source to pay for this, right?
Sure.
So we're hopeful that legislators will embrace some systems of both restraining carbon pollution and supporting transportation and the workers' families tax credit. And we'll look forward to working with legislators on both.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Governor David, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hey, can I put one more pitch, if I may,
Sure.
to you? The next few weeks are critical. We think we've dodged the bullet on the Thanksgiving tidal wave. Washingtonians were very responsible over the Thanksgiving holidays. We think it's one reason we've been able to bend the curve down. But we have another holiday season coming up, and we just need to be supremely protective of each other and not gather indoors the way we traditionally do. We will have a disaster on our hands if we don't, again, be responsible. So we're really hopeful that you use your leadership to urge people, this is just not a time to be indoors with our extended family. It's just way too dangerous, even with masks on. So we hope that you'll use your leadership, bully pulpit, to help encourage people to be safe in the next few weeks. We really need that to have happen.
Great.
So
well,
thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Governor.